Thank you, Chair. Mr. Milliken, Mr. Schroeder, I wanted to just kind of zoom out a little bit. We talked about major disasters, but Mr. Milliken, you were talking about just in general, there's a lot more higher volume in your work. And you in particular said that that has increased the use of people that are just kind of relying on photographs, right? Is that correct in terms of just, trying to get out there, people that might not have the skill set that you and Mr. Schroeder have, but they're out there telling us, taking photographs. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, sir. So when I first started photographs, you never adjusted an estimate by photographs. You went out and put eyes on. Now it's the whole process is set up on photographs. So the reviewers are reviewing pictures that I took at my inspection where I identified hail damage to a roof. And this reviewer, who's never been to this house, tells me that that's not hail. So I go back out to the house. I take more pictures with a phone and a camera. I submit these pictures, and this reviewer tells me this is not hail. I'm 100% certain this is hail, but yet this is still the process. And this isn't just one time. This is multiple times. And the same thing goes with mislabeling material. If I go out and I identify a certain material, pre-engineered flooring versus finished in place flooring, and they tell me that it's not what I say it is. Well, I mean, I know that's what it is. It's 100% factual. And they're making me write something that's not factual and submit this to the homeowner. So yes, that happens on a regular basis.
And with this reliance on photographs to try to determine, what the level of damage is, do you think that that is sort of predisposed? Is that something that seems to be, when you are relying upon photographs, does that seem to be something where you're more likely to underestimate the damage or overestimate the damage?
100% underestimate damage. I think that the whole process is designed to miss damage.
Mr. Chair, I just kind of raise this because it's not just about the major disasters. We're certainly catching that because we're seeing and hearing some incredibly powerful stories. But I think this committee should be thinking through just systemically, like certain types of steps, like what you're saying, that seem to just always kind of tip the balance away from the consumers, away from the policyholders, and kind of always geared towards underestimating. And I think that that's something that, becomes much more clear to me when I hear from you on this front. Mr. Quinn, I wanted to turn to you because, the devil's advocate, the argument on the other side is saying, hey, look, we have very low rates of complaints, some percentage, 1% or whatnot. I guess I just wanted to just hear from you. What is your response to that type of argument in terms of saying, like, satisfaction's high, these problems are outliers rather than systemic?
I assure you, Senator, satisfaction is not high. We hear the complaints regularly. What we understand is most consumers, when they complain, they're dealing with their insurance company, so they'll complain to the insurer, and we believe those statistics get buried. Yeah. Most people don't understand how to complain to their insurance department, how to complain to the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. They don't get it. They don't understand how to do that. So, whatever the companies are claiming are their complaints are not representative of the amount of extreme dissatisfaction amongst their policyholders.
Ms. Miguel, Mr. Vertel, when you were going through that difficult process, probably for the first time where you had to kind of engage with claims of that magnitude, is it right that you have a hard time understanding at that time all the different tools at your disposal, the process that you need to go through? Am I right in kind of assuming that you're going through a lot of trauma as well, just emotionally, and trying to figure out how to file an official complaint or this or that might be more opaque to the average person? Is that right, Ms. Miguel?
I would say that is correct. It is not very user-friendly. It's not very intuitive.
Because you were talking about how you had to go to, you had to bring in an outside adjuster, right? That was probably not something that you knew you could do right away. Is that correct?
That's correct. It took us months to learn enough about the environment with which we're working in, about the situation and how it works, to even recognize that that was an option for us.
Mr. Vertel, could you imagine, policyholders that are going through this, are frustrated, but they might not know that there are ways to file official complaints or, take other actions to be able to raise some of their concerns or see if there are outside entities that might be able to help take another look?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what a complaint would have done in this scenario.
Yeah. Mr. Quinn, I just want to go back to something I asked you at the end of the last round. You were talking about the states versus this federal approach. And, certainly I'm more familiar with this in terms of New Jersey. But, I think part of what I'm hearing as well from you, as you're hearing this from a lot of people, is yes, states are often not meeting the bar. But am I also correct that part of the problem is that every single state probably does this differently? Has different levels of engagement. Some states maybe do better than others, but, without that sense of level playing field, it's very difficult for the American people and the policyholders to be able to have a chance of fairness. Is that an accurate way to be able to describe it?
That is correct, sir. Every state has their own procedure, and there's not necessarily consistency between one state and the next.
Mr. Milliken, Mr. Schroeder, Mr. Quinn earlier was saying that he felt that this was kind of across the industry. We've certainly talked about certain insurance companies here, but is that your understanding as well from your experience? Did you feel like there were some that were abiding very differently and very much focused on the consumer, or do you feel like this is a problem that you see across the industry, no matter which insurance company that you are working with? Mr. Schroeder?
I would say, and I work for many different insurance companies. I kind of spread myself out that way for the purpose of getting different exposure and experience. And I do see this as like a systematic, general consensus, a standard for practice amongst all insurance companies. Some, though, are better than others. And there's a couple standouts that I would say are really fair. And for the most part, all the rest are in the same group of consistently denying unfairly claims that are where there's owed damage.
Mr. Milliken, anything to add here?
No, sir. I've worked exclusively for Allstate for the most part, so I only can speak to that.
Okay. Thank you. Well, look, I just want to say, first of all, to what you were saying, both Mr. Schroeder, Mr. Milliken, about the risk that you are taking when it comes to your career, your work. I just wanted you to know that's incredibly powerful to hear, and it just lends added gravity to your testimony, to your answers today. And I want you to know, this is not some just check the box thing that the chairman and I are engaged on. We want to make sure that we are invested in the follow-up to make sure that it's worth the risk that you took. And to, Ms. McGowl, Mr. Quinn, Mr. Vertol, just hearing about the impacts this has had on you all, your family, your kids. I just, as a father of a 7-year-old and 9-year-old, and hearing from families across New Jersey that years later still, they were saying that, you may very well agree, but people I talked to in New Jersey, they were saying like the storm was in some ways the easier part. That was, they thought that was going to be the worst of it. They didn't expect all the, and I'll exclude the words that people use, but all the other stuff that comes later. They didn't expect that would be so damn difficult. And I just think that's something I think the American people really need to understand. Like, why is it that, in your time of greatest need, not only are you not able to rely upon those that are supposed to help you, but they're actually making things worse. And I think that that's something that just eats away. It just hurts so much to hear your stories, and I'm sorry for what you all have gone through. And the fact that you're sharing it's for the betterment, and hopefully we can save this to help fix and make it easier for other families in the future to be able to go through this.